Before I start this video, I want to address something because everyone has been asking me about it. Yes, I saw the interview video, and no, I won't be talking about it here. If what was said turns out to be true, then honestly, it would go down as one of the biggest failures in TV history. Personally, my whole viewing experience feels ruined, and I'm really disappointed that this even happened. So please, don't ask me any more questions about it, and most importantly, don't post spoilers in the comments. Thank you. I promised myself I wouldn't do any more trailer breakdowns, but since so many of you asked about the new trailer released by Netflix's Spanish channel and Lee Byung-hun's interview with Jimmy Fallon, I decided to make a quick video to share my thoughts. Let's start with the shot of Geum-ja, Jun-hee, and Hyun-ju running through the maze. Jun-hee's pregnancy is really noticeable here. You can clearly see the other two players supporting her as they run, while Jun-hee holds her belly. This moment ties directly into that earlier trailer scene where Hyun-ju is fighting a red player. And now, with this new shot, I think we can confidently say that Jun-hee was on her knees because something happened related to her pregnancy. We also got a glimpse of Nam-gyu doing his usual Nam-gyu things. I don't know about you, but that close-up photo kind of freaked me out. It gave me serious "Here's Johnny" vibes. There's another intense moment with player 120 in a fight, and honestly, I think Hyun-ju is going to be the MVP of this episode. Previously, I speculated that the red player in that scene could be MG Coin rushing in to help Jun-hee. But after seeing this new image, I realize I was probably wrong. This photo gives us a much clearer look at the red player's face, and more importantly, his hairstyle. After a closer comparison, I believe it's actually player 226. If you compare this frame with Myung-gi, it doesn't really match, but if you line it up with player 226, the resemblance is much stronger. A lot of other YouTube channels have pointed this out too, and it adds weight to the theory that 226 won't survive the fourth game. Throughout the whole show, player 100 and 226 are shown together, but in the trailer, when we see the players entering the fifth game's playground, 226 is missing, even though he should be near player 100. So yeah, I'll admit it. I think I was wrong, and that red player is actually 226. We also get a clearer look at the knife, and honestly, it looks kind of beautiful in a twisted way. It perfectly reflects the show's theme, something that looks childish being used for something deadly. I still believe that if it were player 333, he wouldn't use the knife on Hyun-ju, but in that fight scene, the red player's hand movement clearly shows that he was aiming to kill. Finally, we get some quick shots of Dae-ho. I've always wondered why he was alone, and didn't team up with Hyun-ju during the game. Maybe there's still bad blood between them after the rebellion? Maybe Hyun-ju blames him for everything that happened, or maybe Dejo just doesn't have the courage to face her anymore. There's also that scene in the main trailer, when Gi-hun is brought back into the dorm. Geum-ja, Jun-hee, Young-sig, and Hyun-ju are all sitting together, while Dae-ho is isolated, lying alone in his bed. That visual says a lot. We can observe that these two photos aren't from a theme room. They're clearly taken while Dejo is still in the maze, as indicated by the brick walls in the background. You can also see that he still has his player key. What's really interesting, though, is his facial expression. In the first photo, he looks genuinely scared. Judging by the direction of the bricks, it seems like he might be looking downward. Or maybe the camera angle was intentionally chosen to trick us. Something I didn't mention in my full breakdown video is the state of Dae-ho's hand when he opens that door leading into a straight fall. It's covered in blood. Now that we've seen the scene where he fights player 202, we can reasonably assume he at least knocked that player down, if not killed him. That would explain the blood. However, as I said in my previous video, I still don't believe Dae-ho survives this game. And the second photo seems to confirm that. In this one, he doesn't look afraid anymore. Instead, his expression shows resignation. He looks tired, worn out, like he's ready to give up. And honestly, he has every reason to feel that way. In his mind, Young-bae is dead because of him, and Young-bae was a father figure to him. Player 390 was a fellow Marine like Dae-ho's real father, but it was Jung-bae who supported him throughout the games, unlike his actual father, who likely abused him when he was young. As I speculated before, I believe Dejo won't find the correct door within the time limit. That's what I think we're seeing here, a man who has accepted his fate. And if Dejo dies in this game, then Hyun-ju has to survive, especially considering how things ended in Season 2. It wouldn't make sense for Hwang to spare both of them during the rebellion, only to kill them off in the very next episode. But if only one of them dies, that's narratively justifiable. All signs are pointing to Dae-ho not making it out of this maze game. Now, moving on to the last scene, it's from the 5th game, and it confirms something I've been saying for a while. This game likely has a predetermined player order. Based on the photo, it appears that the players are competing in order according to their player numbers. The only thing supporting this theory is the photo itself and the nature of the game. Unlike the glass bridge, this isn't a game of pure luck. It involves skill. That means whether you go first or last doesn't make much of a difference. Everyone has an equal shot. However, there are actually more arguments against this theory than there are for it. First, even if the game relies on skill, we've seen that it's still time-based, and we can't assume that each player gets their own individual time limit, because we've already seen 2 players on the bridge at the same time. That debunks the idea of a strictly turn-based setup. Second, when we saw the player being thrown off the bridge, we got a partial look at his number, and it started with a 0. That means his number is between 001 and 099. If players are really going in numerical order, then the 2 players who already cleared the challenge must also fall into this one to 99 category. The only named player under 100 who realistically has a shot at reaching the final game is player 044. And let's be honest, it's extremely unlikely that an extra would make it to the final round. The only other notable character in that number range is player 007, but do we really believe he'd survive the 4th game? It's highly doubtful. And for the last argument, take a look at the horse with player 336 near the starting point. Shouldn't he be farther back if the players are going in ascending order? I get that he might want a better view of the game, but then we see player 306 in a very similar position. Not only that, but behind player 306, there's a player whose number starts with a 4. If this really were a strict ascending order, based on player numbers, then the groupings should look very different. This setup makes it harder to believe the game follows a numeric turn sequence. Now let's move on to the Tonight Show segment, because we got some pretty interesting insights from Lee Byung-hun's answers. The first question was, do more players learn your real identity in Season 3? Lee answered yes. Was that surprising? Maybe not entirely. Most of us expected Gi-hun to find out In-ho's true identity, and once Gi-hun knows, he wouldn't keep that information to himself. He'd likely share it with the other players in an attempt to expose the games for what they truly are, and convince them to stop playing. Imagine the impact, finding out that the mastermind behind the game, the very game that killed their friends, was hiding among them all along, just like player 001 did in Season 1. Gi-hun could even share this with Hyun-ju if she's still alive at that point. He might tell her that this is the real reason the rebellion failed, because they were being manipulated from within all along. Either way, I'm really curious to see how this part of the story unfolds. The next question was whether In-ho would play any games in Season 3. Lee responded by pressing both buttons. I believe this confirms that we'll see In-ho's final game, the one he won before becoming the front man. That's likely why he pressed the 2 buttons. It's hard to imagine In-ho coming back as a contestant now. The idea that the front man will play the last game against Gi-hun doesn't quite sit right. If he wanted that kind of final confrontation, he wouldn't have faked his own death, and he could rig the game mechanics to make it happen. He is the mastermind, after all. He could pull it off easily. So Byung-hun pressing both buttons suggests we'll see a flashback to his original game. And who knows, maybe that shot from the trailer is actually from the game he played. Maybe the moment he pressed the red button was the moment he won the games. For the next question, is someone else in charge of Squid Game besides the frontman? Again, he pressed both buttons. This could mean a lot. First, we already knew that In-ho wasn't the only one running things. We saw a black square-masked staff member managing operations while In-ho was still a contestant. It could also be a reference to the VIPs, who clearly have influence over the structure and direction of the games. But the most intriguing possibility is the person In-ho speaks to on the phone in Season 1. That mysterious character might be someone even higher up, a figure we've yet to meet. If Season 3 explores that character, things could get really interesting. Next question, we know there will be new games, but will any old games return? Once again, Lee pressed both buttons. To me, that suggests we'll get a deep dive into In-ho's backstory, including the original version of Red Light, Green Light from his season. It could be part of a flashback arc that not only brings back iconic games, but gives us new context around them through In-ho's experience. Finally, the last question. Could we see a frontman spin-off one day? Lee Byung-hun answered yes. And honestly, I think a spin-off focused on In-ho would be absolutely wild. There's so much to explore. His relationship with his brother, his path from player to enforcer, his internal conflict. The potential is massive, and I'm genuinely excited at the thought that this could actually happen. At the end of the trailer, we're shown a longer sequence featuring the frontman talking on the phone. And now we have confirmation that he is speaking with Captain Park. The interesting thing here is that he doesn't say the infamous line, "Kill them all," which suggests that moment happens later in the show. Instead, we hear In-ho say, "Until we finish the game," and that line could mean two very different things. First possibility, In-ho might have something special planned for his brother. Maybe he noticed Jun-ho hasn't given up on his search, and he's setting the stage for some kind of reveal, or even confrontation. Second possibility, In-ho intends to finally reveal the island's location to Jun-ho, but only after the games are already over. That way, Jun-ho would arrive and find nothing but an empty facility. He might assume the games were moved elsewhere and never look at that island again. That theory also ties in with what we've seen of Jun-ho in the trailer. He appears completely alone in every scene. In 2 shots, he's seen entering empty rooms that feel cold, deserted. It could mean that he did manage to find the island, but just as In-ho planned, he got there too late. Everyone had already gone home. Let me know what you think in the comments, and hopefully we won't get too many more spoilers in the next few days. There are only 7 days left until the season drops, and at this point, we don't want the entire show spoiled before we even get to watch it. Just a few more days to go. We can wait.